Hi, welcome to the Catholic Corner. I'm Monsignor Walter Nolan. Today we welcome back Mom and Dad, I guess I can say, of the Rizzo family. You might remember that a few years back we had their son David, who was here. We have David with his son Brendan. And Brendan created a special needs lending library at their parish, St. Isaac Jogues in Marlton, New Jersey, as part of his Eagle Scout project. The library has materials to help prepare children with autism who have little or no reading or verbal skills for their first Holy Communion. Marvelous, marvelous thing he did. The idea of this special library was inspired by Brendan's sister Danielle, who has autism. David and Mercedes Rizzo are here today to kind of tell us about how Brendan's Eagle Scout project inspired two more resources for the family, especially families with special needs and difficulties that we have to address all the time. The projects, the Adapted First Eucharist Preparation Kit, and a book, Faith, Family, and Children with Special Needs. David and Mercedes have been married for over 20 years. Wow, marvelous, marvelous. They have 4 children. In addition to Brendan and Danielle, the 2 other children, Colin and Shannon. Mercedes is a certified teacher. She has worked in both public and parochial schools, and she co-developed the Adapted First Eucharist Preparation Kit with David. David is a physical therapist who specializes in working with adults and children with developmental disabilities. In addition to co-creating the Adapted First Eucharist Preparation Kit, David wrote the book, Faith, Family, and Children with Special Needs. The book offers hope for parents who want to grow in their own spirituality while certainly helping their children. Welcome to the Catholic Corner.
Thank you, Father.
God, you got impressive backgrounds and lots of things you've been doing with your family and with your children. How about giving us a little update about the children since we last met? I think Brendan was in high school with his Eagle Scout project, and what's he doing? What's the other children doing now?
Brendan is now at Rowan University.
Wow.
He's a sophomore. He's studying biological sciences. Colin is a junior at Bishop Eustace Prep.
Wow.
He'll be looking for colleges soon. And Danielle is now in middle school. She recently made her confirmation, and Shannon is in 5th grade. So keeping us busy.
I can imagine, and I think you keep them busy.
But they keep us busier.
Wow. Tell me now, the special needs library that was all part of our discussion last time, received well at the parish of St. Isaac Jogues?
Oh, definitely. They even have a special room now that houses it as part of some expansions that was done at the church. And so now it has its own room, which is nice. And it's available for parishioners, parents, and the like if they wish to utilize it, and also for any of the religious education teachers to utilize if they have students who need it.
Now tell me a little bit about the special room. Is it configured differently? Are the chairs different?
No, it's part of the resources available to the people who teach the program.
Okay.
It's not. There is a special area designed just for the materials that Brendan had put together in the library.
Yeah, it's a regular classroom in that they just expanded and built a bunch of classroom space there.
Right.
And it's a room, a regular room for the classroom, but there's it's now housed there instead of where it was housed before, which was not as
It's more accessible.
accessible a room.
Sure, and it should be. Has any other parish developed a library like that or anything special? Do you know of?
I don't know of anything that was developed in terms of materials and like the library, but I do know that now the other Marlton parish, St. Joan of Arc, has a special program. I know that that's run by a speech therapist, actually, named Ginny Perrone. And I don't know. I'm sure that elsewhere this has been done too, but I'm not specifically
Our Lady
familiar.
Good Counsel has a very expansive program as well.
And they've
So
had
I
that
think
for
many of the parishes have the programs, but I don't know if they have a library. But I'm sure they have some resources that have been adapted.
It's marvelous because I know a little bit about some of the happenings in some of the parishes with special needs and
Right.
maybe even future growth of being part of schools, and
It's
it's tremendous. The love of parents and and how the church looks at all of us as sons and daughters of a great God who loves us and blesses us. And how did David's, your book, David, the adapted first Eucharist preparation, grow out of the project of your son, Brendan?
Well, so when we were here last time, I think it was you, Monsignor, who said, you guys should get this published.
I did.
Oh, we did.
So we did, and what ended up happening was we were able to, we looked at different potential publishers, and somehow our equipment, our homemade materials, found their way to a publishing company in Chicago, Loyola Press, which is the Jesuits of Chicago own. And they were impressed with it, and they, from there, they put together these materials here, the Adaptive First Eucharist Preparation Kit. And so they professionalized the appearance of it and also really developed some additional pieces with us. And we think it's terrific, and it's out now since September last year.
Yeah.
So Loyola Press actually did the packaging for you, or
Yes,
gave
they
you some
did.
ideas or some suggestions about it?
Yes, they did. The
box concept, it's a kit in a box.
And what I know the kit itself is a marvelous tool for families. Now, do families take it home? Or they will take this home with them and utilize it at home, or is it utilized for a classroom?
Some of the materials are for preparation in advance, like there's some puzzles here, and like this would be the mechanics of how to receive communion, and it would tell you the steps. You stand in line, you wait in line, you fold your hands, all the way down to receiving, and so the child can learn a sequence of the steps. With Danielle, she was very good at matching, doing puzzles, so she needed a very visual approach. She doesn't read, so this kind of helped her. Here's another one is the blessing yourself, just the mechanics of how to, this is step one, in the name of the Father. And then, so some of these materials would be used in advance to prep the child for receiving their first communion.
I noticed that when you can take the
Yeah, you can
little
take
square out.
Give that to Father.
And what, is there a reason that it comes out, and then because you have the same,
there is.
did the children?
It's used as a puzzle.
I see.
It can be used as a puzzle to learn the sequence because they would put it in, they would match picture to picture, and then also they would use the information on it, the picture information, to show, well, what do I do? I'm doing this with one. And
then this one
it
would.
helps with learning.
Well,
Right.
that is terrific. And
Well, this is a tool that the child needs to. You might want to talk a little more about that.
Okay. This would be to differentiate communion from food. What we wanted to do was demonstrate that with communion, the correct answer is to put it with Jesus. And so you would teach the child to recognize that communion goes with Jesus as opposed to food. So this was very similar to a piece that we had developed using homemade materials, but this is how it came out in our adaptive kit. And we're just really excited. They had a wonderful illustrator who did great graphics and took our, kind of clip art stuff and turned it into real life stuff.
your stuff was pretty good, David.
Yeah, we liked it too, but this is really nice. We really like it.
It comes with a guide, and the guide will pretty much tell you how to use the pieces if you're not really sure what to do with them, and it pretty much gives you other ideas. It's a little mini book on how to start the child with the whole process.
Boy, that is so good. I'm thinking a long
about
time
that?
ago, I was talking to a family, a child who had special needs, and helping them try to get to communion. And actually, it was a person that was doing some work with me, Jennifer, who put together a retreat for special needs children and families. It was marvelous. But I remember I spoke to a child, and I said something about, at times we do something wrong, and we have to get clean or something like that. I said, what do we do? Thinking that, we're talking about confession or something. This boy looked at me and said, oh, Well, when I get like that, my mommy puts me in the washing machine.
Wash in the
That's
washing
So,
machine.
you know, it's marvelous the things you're doing. Now you have something else here, David.
One of the things, so this would be used, these types of
then comes
pieces
in a
would
backpack.
be used at home or in a school setting, or religious education setting. But then when you're actually in church, you would utilize the picture missal, which is a pictorial display of the Mass in simplified ways. So it's Sunday and it's time for church. And then, of course, stand and sing the entrance song. And all the ones that we showed you last time are now in this nice published missal.
Now, do you have this updated so that we can say with your spirit?
Consubstantial.
That's
No, because it's picture-based as opposed to language-based. So, no,
Right.
we didn't have to worry about the translation aspects. We were the only ones.
you're ahead of Rome.
Yes, we are.
This is just wonderful.
And you can transport it in a little backpack for them. So they can bring this with them to church. That has actually been very helpful for Danielle because she needs cues, you know, where we are and what comes next. And there's some little cards in the front of it that if the child gets off task, you can redirect them
And
back.
you can actually point to something which is coming up
You
next.
like that one, huh,
so
Father?
That,
Put in basket. You like that one.
no, don't get me wrong. I just happen to be on that page. But that is nice. I'm sure the children enjoy it.
They do,
also,
they do.
because It does help them to recognize and to realize there is a sequence.
Yeah.
That there is, and it's expected. It's the same thing pretty much every time. So children who have disabilities like autism, they learn by repetition and practice, and it becomes a safe and desired thing to do. So they enjoy coming to Mass.
Did you want to go with this at all?
This is a social story called I Receive Communion. And again, it's to teach the concepts of
In a very
reverent
basic
receipt
form.
of the Eucharist. So there's pictures, and it talks about things the child may encounter, like that would surprise them or maybe cause a problem. Like sometimes the priest gives communion, sometimes a man or woman will give it, so that you might prepare the child for the fact that, hey, it's okay, you might get a Eucharistic minister instead of the
think they
priest.
just brought 'em.
Whoops. Or it's okay, it's still Jesus. So, you know, we're teaching the real presence. So those are the types of things that we have.
And it's, you know, it just does my heart so good to see all of this because the children, I mean, the families that I've ever talked to, worked with, you just know how much God's grace is happening for them and for the parents and the family and you know, and priests. It's just lovely to see the children come and to see the expression and to know that there's a great depth of the mystery in themselves that accepts the mystery of Christ, which is so great. How are we doing with the package? I mean, is it a lot of families?
Feedback has been very favorable.
We have looked on the website, for instance, and seen lots of comments that the Loyola Press website. And there's, you know, people now, they go online and they comment right then and there. They say, oh, they liked it or they didn't like it. Well, everything we've seen, they've liked it. Parents have said things like, we wish we had this when our child was preparing for First Communion. Or I see a lot of grandparents will say, I'm so happy that this is here. I have a 10-year-old grandson with autism or something like that. And so it sounds like it's catching on. and
There's some
people-
feedback there on the back of it.
When do you recommend that a family would, say, obtain something like this with their child? I guess it would be different with different children or different families.
We started the process with Danielle very early. She was probably about 5 years of age because we just knew that she really was going to need a very specialized approach. She does not have language. She also doesn't read, so she really needed a very simple form. This also could be utilized for like a preschooler because of the basic, it's such a basic level. But I think it really depends on the child and their ability to, focus and attention.
Some children haven't had religious education, and they might be
Right.
15, or some young adults may not have had religious education, and they could be 25. I was talking for my book. One of the people I interviewed was Sister Bonnie McMenamin, who is a sister of St. Joseph, and she, in the Camden Diocese, runs special needs masses at various locations. And she was telling me that they recently did First Communion for a 29-year-old young man who had a disability, and that it was a wonderful experience, and their parents had never believed that their child, who is now an adult, would receive communion, so it was very meaningful for them and for the child and now the adult. So any age, but I would try to stick as close as you can nowadays, since we have the benefit of the technology, so to speak, to try a roughly age equivalent to the general population.
Some of the comments that you have, could
Oh.
you share a couple of them with our
Sure.
audience?
Well, these are people these are endorsements of the kit. For instance, Michael Ann Martin, who is the co-author of the Catholic Parent Book of Feast and Family Matters, and also has a child with autism. She wrote, "Being a mother of a son with autism, I have lived the challenges of trying to catechize him in order for him to receive the sacraments and better participate in the liturgy of the Mass. As the numbers of struggling children increase, we are seeing a need for adaptive teaching tools in the schools and in our church. The Rizzos have created a beautiful missal and activities that teach and supplement our Catholic faith in a beautiful and enriching way for children with learning disabilities." So we feel that that's really a wonderful thing to hear, that somebody who has children and who their faith is so important to them, like the Martin family. So we're just glad to be a part of being able to help people like that.
Well, I tell you, it is just marvelous. And I mentioned to you before that a while back, we did a retreat, and just to see the folks, the parents, I'll never forget a big, strong police officer when his son received communion, just
Right.
tears coming down his face, of joy, and and all of our families, we just
It's a big
are
accomplishment.
just so blessed to know that we can help each other. And tell me a little bit about how it's affected both of you as a mom and dad. Because there's a lot of moms and dads, who I'm sure can feel this.
Absolutely. One of the things it does is it really forces the parents to look at their own faith, and because they're confronted with this child that's so different from the person that they thought the child would be. And here it is, you're expecting a typical child who's going to make all the milestones, be able to talk to you about things, learn about God, get married and drive cars, all the things you'd expect. And then when that doesn't happen, it's quite a shock when you realize that, whoa, this is a very serious disability and everything's different afterwards. It forces you to look at that and say, well, why is God doing this? What is it all about? It requires you to go back and kind of rediscover God. And that's really one of the reasons I wrote the book, was because it was sort of looking at parents' spirituality and what does it do to parents. And it really does force us to also become, I think, closer as, in our marriage, because we're both encountering all these challenges that bring us together rather than separate us.
There's something about the Lord's words, "Let the children come to me."
Right.
Absolutely.
That even brings out, as you're talking, the deeper mystery of we're not just talking about a childlike thing, but we're really talking about, I think, the essence of love that's in every created human son and daughter of the Father.
Yeah.
And that's what the Lord, I think, was saying. Let that love come out.
In the Catechism of the Catholic Church, it talks about the inherent dignity of the human person because of the divine spark that comes from our Creator, from God. And that is apparent in our children and adults who have disabilities. And that spark is there, and that image and likeness of God is still there. So they have that inherent worth, and it's something we all can relate to. And in many ways, I think that's really gives the meaning to what we were looking for as to why would God allow Danielle to be nonverbal?
Right.
And I think that it's well the effect she's had just
Yes.
from being who she is, you know, it's just been remarkable.
It's very like, I think, the whole notion that a lot of times people say, well, Jesus cured, or
Right.
I want a cure. And we all would like cures too. I'm not.
We
I'm
were
not
looking
against
for that early on.
But I also think that it's a lot deeper than the cure. I use the word healing
Right.
because the healing is the entire person that's accepted as a total human, dignified son and daughter of God. The cure can be just, well, my hand is okay, or my eye is okay, or my personality's okay. I mean, we all want that.
Sure.
But I think there's something so much deeper that you parents and many others have taught us of the depth of that mystery that the Lord gave to us when he did heal and touched and brought to that dignity. It's marvelous. So this is where the book came from.
That's right.
You two praying together,
It's a
laughing
funny
together,
story.
crying together.
It is. I have to tell this story. So I was thinking that wouldn't it be fun to write a book about the spirituality of special needs parents? And I said it to Mercedes half-heartedly because I never expected that I would do it. And she happened to be talking to the people at Loyola Press about this project, and she said to them, you know, my husband wants to write a book about the parents. And they said, okay, well, send a sample chapter and an outline. And so it was like, wow, maybe I better sit down and write this thing and actually try. So it did. It came out of that.
And it came together very
interaction.
quickly. Yeah.
It did come quickly.
Yeah, it came together very fast.
And the stories that I think that you found was like a common thread, and it kind of, you know.
We used basically our own stories of, you know, how we would take the family to, say,
St. John Newman's.
St. John Newman's Rosary Garden. They have a beautiful, it's a monastery for those viewers who don't know, and it's got just a beautiful rosary garden with life-size statues of the mysteries of the rosary. And so this would be something that we did. We would take Danielle and Shannon, for instance, one summer night, and we went.
She
and
could
we would
comprehend
walk
that well
through the-
because it's a big statue, it's visual.
So the visualness and the real
Right.
life size of these great statues was an opportunity for Danielle to understand a little bit of the story. And so those kinds of stories find their way into the book. And,
Right.
and I think they give sort of a nice, real quality of, you know, what our family life is about.
You know, I said this one time that every life is a story of God and a book of God. And you're really
Very
just
nice.
showing that to be so, so true. I mean, Danielle's is a book of God, and you as parents,
Well, I always
which
think that
chapters came first, or which chapters you
We're still
emphasize,
writing it,
but they
right?
all come together.
I always think of that biblical passage about I knew you before I formed you in the womb. You know, I think of that with Danielle a lot.
Yeah,
It's a good, you know,
Yeah.
she's made in the image and likeness of God.
yeah. And that other beautiful expression that even, and I say even, underline that 100 times, that even if a mother would ever not love you, I would love you, God says. And a mother cannot help but love, so
There you
how
go.
could God not help but love us, you know?
Right.
I know you want to help other families with special needs to experience that spirituality. In what ways can you tell them to do this so they can start to share and open up their own hearts?
Well, there are many ways. There's so many ways. I think the first is to remember to stay connected to the church and to come to Mass as a family. That's so important. And then do other things too. For instance, one of the things that's you can do is go to, for instance, religious shrines or that kind of thing. One of the things we like to do was go to, there's a shrine for St. Padre Pio in South Jersey, somewhere in like one of the counties south of here. And that was something that we did. We would go and the whole family would go, and it was just a nice opportunity to stay connected and to develop one's spirituality in the face of, you know, something like having a child with a disability, which seems so shocking and catastrophic at first. And then what you realize is that it's just real life and it's just what's happening and it's okay. and there's so many good things, and you start to see all the wonderful things about your child that they maybe wouldn't have if they didn't have their disability. So it's sort of allows you to come to grips, while you're living your life as a family with these real questions and these real challenges to one's faith. It is a challenge to one's faith when you have a child who, has such a severe problem. And people who have children with chronic medical conditions run into the same thing. Like I know a young lady whose young boy just had to have a bone marrow transplant because of a chronic medical problem. And I know that this is very challenging, and very amazing that she holds up so well, that she's such a wonderful person. So I definitely say keep yourself focused on what matters and what's
I
important.
hope you parents and all the parents that listen realize just how much God loves you, the church loves you, and don't ever quit on that stuff. It's a marvelous gift. Let me ask you, in college, you had a nice spirituality going, and you even thought of priesthood at one time.
I did. It's so
It's
funny. I went to
comical.
Rutgers College, Rutgers University, and I used to go up to the library, the Alexander Library, and it was a huge, still is a big, big library. And the second floor was devoted to religion. And I would remember sitting by the stacks of books, and I thought I had struck gold, because here I could read, the fathers of the church. I could read St. John of the Cross. I could read, and I just loved this, and it really ignited in me a strong spirituality and also an awareness of the prayer tradition in the church, and that became so important for me later when I was confronted with having a child with a disability. Reliance on prayer became so important, and the faith tradition of the church. So it was, something that happened when I was 20. Who would know that when I was in my 40s?
That's the way the Lord plants seeds in all of us.
It's
That's another
true.
book. You have another
I'll
book
have
in
another
the
book
making,
from you.
Mercedes, quickly, a favorite part of the book for yourself?
I like the parts that he gives, actual stories that happened in our lives, and the wisdom in those stories. Some of them are comical, and if you're on that path of autism, you would understand it wholeheartedly. And it also gives a lot of actual strategies. One time.
Keep up the stories, and remember what I said. Every story is part of that book of God. Bless you both. It's marvelous to see. How can people order the book or the adapted First Eucharistic Kit? I think it's loyolapress.com or 800-621-1008. Bless you. Pray together, all you parents. Know you're loved and blessed.